Talks are set to resume at the end of this month to revive the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran. Western and Iranian diplomats are expected to try to save the deal. Activist and actress Nazanin Boniadi says economic and geopolitical interests should not overshadow the human rights side of the situation in Iran. She and the head of Amnesty International argue Iranian people are suffering from an epidemic of torture, and global leaders must help to put a stop to it. The Iranian-born British actress is most known for her roles in How I Met Your Mother, Homeland, and Hotel Mumbai. She's also an Amnesty International UK ambassador. Boniadi is in Los Angeles. Ms. Boniadi, thank you so much for joining us. In your op-ed, you say that Iran is suffering from an epidemic of torture. Give us a sense of the state of human rights right now.
Well, I mean, we still have grave concerns about the fact that there are no laws to protect women from domestic and gender-based violence. Child offenders are still being executed. There's still child marriage and forced marriage, female genital mutilation. Dual and foreign nationals are still being used as political pawns. Due process and fair trials simply don't exist. And, you know, there really is a full-on assault on free expression and free thought. And notably, as Amnesty's Secretary General, Dr. Kalamad, and I recently wrote in the Washington Post, there is an epidemic of torture. Just in September, a 49-year-old man by the name of Shaheen Naseri died mysteriously while under custody after giving witness testimony about the torture of wrestler Navid Afkari. Navid Afkari, of course, is the prominent protester who was unjustly detained, interrogated, and secretly executed after a sham trial in 2020. So, you know, after leaked footage, Amnesty has reported extensively about this epidemic of torture inside Iran, and the leaked footage from August of this year corroborates all the accounts. And the Iranian government simply responds by distorting, deflecting, and denying. They characterize these abuses as acts by rogue prison guards. But we know, based on our research, that this type of inhuman and cruel treatment is integral to Iran's judicial system and not an exception to it.
Now, Iran's president has been credibly implicated in crimes against humanity. What can you tell us about what that means for the crisis that's happening in the country right now?
I mean, Ebrahim Raisi has been a pillar of the Islamic Republic for over 4 decades. The fact that he's risen from prosecutor to head of the judiciary and now president without being investigated really speaks to the culture of impunity inside Iran. Amnesty International documented that Ebrahim Raisi was a member of the death commission that was responsible for the forced disappearance and extrajudicial killing in secret, execution in secret, of thousands of dissidents in 1988. And the concealment of the fate of those victims counts as ongoing crimes against humanity. So this really is, his presidency really is, it speaks to the culture of impunity inside the country.
Amnesty International has repeatedly called for the regime's president to be investigated and for his involvement in past and ongoing crimes against humanity. What needs to happen for such an investigation to take place?
We need to come together. The international community needs to come together and unite. It's heartening that Canada has been the lead sponsor of a resolution, a UN resolution for the protection and promotion of human rights in Iran since 2003. And of course, 2003 was the year that dual Canadian-Iranian citizen and freelance photojournalist Zahra Kazemi was killed while in custody. And her medical examiner later testified that she had been sustained brutal torture and rape. And this is heartening. We expect that next week, when this year's vote for this resolution is presented to the UN General Assembly, that member states vote to support it. The promotion and support of this resolution is the very least we expect. But apart from that, Amnesty International and 9 other NGOs have come together to call on member states of the UN Human Rights Commission to support the creation of mechanisms that allow for documentation and preservation of evidence of the most serious crimes inside Iran. Because these victims, there's no channel for justice domestically inside Iran. The victims of serious crimes inside the country are looking to the international community to support their rights, and that's the very least we can do. Without the support from the international community, torture and this culture of impunity will reign supreme inside the country. And one more note that I have is we have soft pedaled human rights advocacy for far too long in our foreign policy. The respect for human rights is intricately bound with respect for the rule of law. There can be no good governance in the long run without the rule of law. Good and law-abiding governance is not only important for domestic progress, it makes for better regional neighbors and members of the international community. So this is not just a moral imperative that we support human rights and make it a priority in our foreign policy. It is in our own benefit that we don't allow it to be overshadowed by geopolitical, economic, and other interests.
The last thing I want to ask you about really quickly, of course, this is a conversation for a Canadian audience. Canada does not have formal ties with Iran diplomatically. How could a country like Canada have any sort of influence over the human rights situation in Iran?
By talking to other member states of the UN, by coming together and making sure that the voice of the Iranian people is heard, and particularly by supporting, as I said, this call for a mechanism whereby we document and really preserve evidence that can later be used in criminal proceedings against the country. These are things that are missing and lacking. We don't have that type of human rights governance on an international level that can hold countries like Iran accountable for human rights abuses.
Ms. Boniadi, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much.